I'll try to focus on what the holiday of Pesach, which was an extremely special time for the Jews in Syria, and many things that we take for granted living in the United States with so much available for us, from kosher food, accommodations. For us as Jews in Syria, life was very, very different. And I'm sure women in the United States especially appreciate what I'm about to say. The preparation for Pesach really started the day after Purim. For example, we had to make everything from scratch, basically. We didn't have kosher wines to buy from. And our wines, or every family or a few families, they used to make their own wine, buying the grapes from the time of Sukkot, cleaning them, preparing them, storing them for fermentation, and they take them out right during the time, right after Purim, to squeeze them, filter them, and make it wine. We made our own cheeses from milk. The pastries, the sweets, all the preparation has to be made.
So there was no store, Benny? No, there was no store that would do this? Like there wasn't a shopkeeper?
No, everybody did it at home. We did it at home.
Wow.
Cleaning the rice, buying the coffee, like green coffee, because we don't trust any other stores that have it. We had to roast the beans and grind them. The same thing for the spices, same thing for the nuts, and all of this is done at home. On the house preparation, the cleaning was so extensive. It was a lot of work, hard work, but to be honest, it brought a lot of meaning to us, to everyone, because everyone was involved, from the adult.
So maybe elaborate on that. I want to touch on two things before you go. You say you're painting. You would paint the house every Pesach.
Once a year, usually Pesach, we painted the entire house. Draperies are special for Pesach, taken out for the holidays. We have draperies for Rosh Hashanah, for example.
So you would take down the regular draperies, put up the Pesach draperies.
Correct.
Wow.
The entire house is transformed in the spirit and the environment of Pesach.
So I want to just compare with my childhood. If you had challah, you could not go into a room that was already cleaned for Pesach. Like that would be if you had pita. So the same sort of thing, I assume.
Correct. What they did with the house preparation, number one, they cleaned one room that all the food had to be prepared in. Rice cleaning, it had to be used in that specific room. And that was very early on. And as the time gets closer to Pesach, one room at a time. And we did that slowly. By the time, like a week before Pesach, everything was clean and done.
Right.
On the community level, you have a question?
Yeah, I want to ask about the rice. Like, what did you do? You would take out the rice. You would wash the rice.
They will be sitting. They'll wash it, clean it, dry it, and then they have to inspect it.
Right.
At least 3, if not 4 times inspection, grain by grain. There are like a big table set up with everybody. Everything is clean, and they have they spread a plate, and they go through the rice. One inspector, move on to the next, and
but that what you did in your house?
Every Jew in Syria did that.
Wow.
On the community level, also we did not have matzah, so the wheat had to be bought by the community. The community organized this. They have a group of people who are involved, including a rabbi. From the time of harvest, they would go to the field, watch the plot of land they bought that had the wheat, harvest it, pack it, and being stored in a place where obviously is going to be shmura until the time where they take it out and grind it, which is about 1 week before Purim. And would Purim start, there is one of the public ovens or privately owned ovens that was rented by the community from the non-Jew, and they cleaned it, they prepared it, and they rented for the entire 45 days. They made matzah for the entire community.
And I don't know if you're going to touch on this later. What did the matzah look like?
The matzah looked like, I would say, fine crackers rather than the actual matzah here.
Okay, so you didn't do like the soft matzah that they're now doing in the Syrian community.
No, it was a hard matzah, but it was very soft. Most like the, have you ever had the Italian crackers?
Sure.
So
very thin.
Big, very thin and big, very delicate.
So it's not that different than the Ashkenazi matzot that they have in America.
No, it's a hard matzah, yeah. It's a hard matzah. And that process was really extensive. The cheeses we made at home, as I said, the coffee ground and prepared, grapes were done.
That must have been the best coffee of the year.
Yes, yes. So as I said, everyone in the family was involved. The mother was doing something. For example, I painted. I was 11, 12 years old. I learned how to paint the walls, prepare the whatever is needed. Even the mattresses, believe it or not, our mattresses were filled with wool. You take out the mattresses, open up the cover, take out the wool, clean it, air it up in the sun, fluff it, which I did love to do that, fluff it and put it back in. So it was probably a 14th century video.
So you were working hours a day.
Yes.
Everybody in the family.
Everybody from the youngest to the oldest did something. So
right. There's always one kid that doesn't do their job, though. You know
that. That's true. I was the oldest. I had no choice. So I was the oldest one. Did you want to ask questions? You want me to continue?
No, this is perfect. This is perfect. And of course, it's the spring, which is beautiful.
So Pesach always falls in the spring. And in Syria, as you guys know, in Israel, the same. Pesach, springtime is very special because the entire environment, the sun comes out, it's 65, 70 degrees, blossoms everywhere in Damascus. And it's such a beautiful thing. This is like typical picture of backyards or homes, jasmine. Damascus is known for its special jasmine smell, similar to the gardenia. And wherever you go in the streets, you smell that. So the whole environment or the whole atmosphere is that of holiday. And that was an additional special, added a special unique taste and flavor to the Jewish holiday.
Does it rain in Damascus in the spring and summer?
Pesach. In Pesach, no. Spring, no.
Okay, so it's like Israel. It stops raining. Okay.
Right, it stops raining. It's blossoming of the flowers and the roses, as you can see, and the streets are really beautiful. The preparation takes about a month to 40 days until you get to the last minute, as we all Jews know, we last minute things an hour before the Seder. You have to run to shul, obviously, and everything is busy. But the minute the holiday starts, everything is transformed into the joyous holiday feeling. Most families got together and they had the elder person in the family will hold the Seder in the house, and all of the kids, the grandkids, great-grandkids will all come, to participate and do the Seder together. And that was very customary. Some of the customs in terms of the Pesach itself, the Seder night, the Seder was the text as in every other text with no variations, practically the same as we use here in the States or everywhere else almost. The difference will be in the way we sing the Haggadah. We sing it in two formats, one in Arabic, one in Hebrew. We start with Hebrew. Every paragraph is sung in Hebrew, and then repeated in Arabic in a melodic way. And everyone had to participate, from the youngest child who's 6, 7 years old to the eldest person in the room.
So you sang, first of all, did you sing every paragraph in the Haggadah or only certain paragraphs?
All the paragraphs were sung.
But was it sung like a tune, or was it sung more like a nusach, like a...
I'll give you an example.
Okay.
بأرعاد مصرايم كل دخفين يتي بيخول كل دصريخ يتي بيفسح أشتاخل لشنابك بأرعاد إسرائيل بين حوري.
And then was it the same tune in Arabic?
Yes, but the words are going to be different. Of course,
is it a translation, or what do you mean it's different? It's a translation.
It's translation. It's literal translation into Arabic.
Wow. So and then you sang it the same way.
Yes, I think the purpose of singing it in Arabic was for those who are not fluent to understand the context, what we're doing, and what does it mean. And whoever has questions can ask.
Now, did you change tune for each paragraph, or it was the same tune?
No. It's different tunes. Different tunes.
What was your Dayenu tune?
Dayenu, interestingly enough, Dayenu is back and forth, but it's not a song.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's not a song like we do it here in the United States.
It's not. So at home, you do which one?
We try to do half and half.
Okay, so you do
because the kids learn and they like the other one.
Well, the other one is it's very popular with children.
Popular,
that's for sure.
Exciting, and why not? And we do a little bit part of the other, the traditional Syrian one.
So you change. So each paragraph is a different tune.
Correct.
And then who did the Manishtana?
Manishtana, kids are encouraged to participate and sing it. Again, each paragraph, a different kid will be singing their part, and the elder person in the family will explain the meaning, and they go on to enlighten the young kids.
Right.
A lot of attention was given to kids.
Yeah, and then they get to do it in Arabic also. So then you get two shots at the Manishtana.
They taught us these things, right?
Yeah.
The 4 cups of wine, the same order, the same way as in everything else. And at the end of the Haggadah, as we I forgot an important custom, which is, to my knowledge, is pertinent to the Syrian Jews. I put the cover for the afikomen here. After we do yahatz and break the matzah, the afikomen is placed in some form of a cover. Before we start the Magid, each person will do this act. The act will follow. We take the covered, wrapped piece of afikomen, put it on take it with the right hand, put it on the left shoulder, and recite the pasuk, ושערותם סרורות, בסמלותם על שכמם, ובני ישראל עשו כדבר משה, which is basically the recounting of the Exodus as the Jews were leaving out of Egypt in Parashat
So everyone does that.
A person does it, and the people sitting around, after he recites that pasuk, they will ask him in Arabic, where are you coming from? and he says, I'm coming from Misraim. Where are you going to? Yerushalayim. What do you have on your back? Matzah maror. Back and forth response, and everyone does it. And kids seem to get a lot of excitement.
Yeah, that's the best part. Yeah.
Yeah, they like it.
The Moroccan Jews, I think, do that also. I think I remember the Moroccan Jews would do that as well.
Yes, I
think so. I mean, your wife should know. I mean, you can ask her.
They do a different custom where they take the Seder plate and they sing a song over the heads of people.
Okay.
I don't know about that.
But it's a beautiful minhag. What a beautiful minhag. So you said the enactment of Exodus, that's what you're talking about with the matzah.
Correct. Basically, we are enacting retelling the Exodus story. And as the Ramban says, every person has the obligation to show that, to act in a way so that he or she, as if were themselves saved from Egypt. Right.
That's brilliant. I see you have Chad Gadya as well.
Chad Gadya is sung also in Aramaic, and also they have an Arabic version also for those to understand.
Wahajidi.
Yeah, Wahajidi.
And what was the tune like that? What's your tune like for Chad Gadya?
Chad Gadya is a different tune. It's more like similar to the next song that I put down, Mini Alamu Manidri. Mini Alamu Manidri, who knows, who predicts, who can tell the future? That's what is the name title of the song, and the center of that, obviously the piece of the song that we sing is God is the Almighty, He is the Omnipotent, He knows everything, and we start counting 4 mothers, 4 إمهات, 3 أبوت, Moshe Aaron, exactly.
Oh, it's Moshe Aaron.
Right.
And Min Ya'alam Umin Yidri is after Chad Gadya?
It varies. There's no particular, order. Whatever they wanted to sing. Each family is different.
And did you say Shir Hashirim after the Haggadah?
When I was very young, I remember my grandfather, Alav Shalom, I was really young. I remember one Seder night that he asked us to sing also Shir Shirim, but only one time I remember. After that, those years, we stopped saying it for some reason. We stopped reading Shir Shirim.
And when did you finish the Seder?
Usually around 1, 12:31.
Okay, now you skipped over the part that I think most people remember. And what was the meal like?
The meal, each family made their own choices. Whether it's beef, chicken, combination of everything.
Oh, so there was nothing that you had every year. It was whatever.
No, nothing pertinent. No, nothing pertinent to the Pesah.
And what vegetable did you use for karpas?
Karpas, I tried to get a picture of it. There's an actual herb. It looks like I want to say like coarse parsley. It's an herb, actual herb, and it's called in Arabic mirer, similar to the maror.
Oh, wow.
And it's literally, figuratively, it tastes bitter. And that's what we use, maror.
The maror or for the karpas?
No, for the maror.
And what was for karpas?
I'm sorry, for karpas is celery.
Oh, you use celery. Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of Ashkenazim use celery as well. Yeah. And how did you make your charoset? What was in the charoset?
The charoset traditionally was made from raisins, cooked raisins, walnuts mixed with cherries or dried cherries. And that was the main ingredient, and some pistachios on top, like brushed pistachios.
Wow, this is very interesting. Okay, so do you have more slides or you're?
Yep, few more. since Jews, we cannot really buy milk from outside, on Pesach, the farmers, the non-Jewish farmers, knew about this. We obviously, for many, many years, have been doing it. They would bring their cattle into the Jewish quarter, the actual goats. My mom would send me outside, to the Jewish quarter and say, go, the farmer is out there with the goats, go get some milk. She will give me the pot, I will take it to him, and he will milk the goat right then and there. Wow. Into your own pot, and you take it back home. The mom will boil it, and they knew about this. And the farmers will not bring the cattle any time of the year, only the 7 days of Pesach. Wow. After that, they know it's not there anymore.
Right. So and it was goat milk primarily, or you used other or
goat
okay.
milk.
Wow.
I think that was easiest for them to travel with.
Oh, right, they could bring the goats. It's very easy, but it tastes different
than bringing a cow. Probably
right. But it tastes a lot different, obviously.
Yes, it's a lot different than the cow's milk. One additional custom that is really important, was very important. Twice a year, the Jewish community, I would say almost everyone, had a very special custom. After tefillah in the shul, we started early. We started like 7:15. People rose up early at a time, and the tefillah was not long. So by 9:20, 9:15, 9:20, you're outside. The family, like my family, my father, my uncles, all of cousins, we did not go back home from the shul. From the shul, we came out like every other family, and we went through the Jewish quarter, from house to house to house, wishing them, Chag Sameach. The doors were open, all the Jewish homes were open, and rooms were set up, and we come in as kids. Kids loved it because we got a lot of candies. Every time
you go into each house and they give you some candy.
Yes, I used to come back with bags of candies. We used to visit, and we did that the first and the second day of the holiday. Obviously, we had to cover lots of homes.
Right.
Wow.
And the people were there, and you would say Chag Sameach, and
yes, all the men will be going from home to home to home, and the women stayed in their home receiving people as they're coming through. And it was such a beautiful custom, people crisscrossing in the streets, in the houses, up and down, and Chag Sameach was a very festive. You felt the holiday. Until 12 o'clock, 12:30, people went to get some lunch and so forth. But that was one of the customs that I really missed. It was such an amazing thing. If you put together the entire picture, the last 10 minutes I was talking about, until this moment, you can have some idea how Pesach, how meaningful was, because of the experience, because of the preparation, because of the hardship to get to the day of Pesach. And then you sit and enjoy and see your friends and families. And it was a beautiful, beautiful time. Really beautiful time.
Wow.
So I am wishing you Chag Sameach for now, and I will take questions. If you have any questions, anybody has questions, I'll be more than happy to.
For sure. So I wanted to actually ask you about a couple of other things. First of all, in terms of what was going on in the synagogue before Pesach, like did the rabbi give a drasha the Shabbat before Pesach?
Yes, drasha Shabbat Gadol, of course.
Okay, and that was in the afternoon, I assume.
Afternoon, right?
Okay.
Afternoon.
And were there special yotzrot that you would say the weeks before Pesach, or just on Pesach itself? On Shabbat Gadol, I'm sure you said yotzrot.
Yes.
Do you say Yotzrot now in the minyan on Shabbat HaGadol?
No, we don't. No, not here. Few
Okay.
things have changed.
But in Damascus, they would say that.
They would, yes.
Okay. And are there other types of customs that you remember that are maybe unique that you didn't do? Like, what's the difference between like what the community does here and what you did in Damascus? Are there differences that you remember?
There are similarities and there are some differences. When, if you're talking about the areas where the community is closely living next to each other, like in Brooklyn, they still hold the custom of visiting families and friends until today, not to the same extent as it was before, but the immediate family, the fathers, the grandfather, and they still. I think Rabbi Laniado can chip in, since he grew up in Deal, also the same community. He can chip in telling you about how it is done today. If you, Rabbi?
Sure. I want to know if you could do a stop screen share so we can see your face. Because all we see is the Chag Sameach and the Seder table. There we go.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. So what did you do in Deal? Did you go from house to house, Rabbi Laniado?
Not like he's describing. What he's describing was done in the early part of the Brooklyn community, where that was literally done. And after shul, they went to all the aunts and all the uncles. So I definitely heard stories, and it was more told to me like from my great uncles, we used to do this, why do we stop doing this? So it's done a little bit. We visit some family. We do have very large Pesach Seders. We do some visiting, but it's not like of days of old, even going back 40, 50 years in Brooklyn itself, where they did go to many, many relatives.
That's interesting. So Rabbi Laniado, do you have any questions for Benny?
I was curious from, I guess, a rabbinical perspective, what were the Shabbat Hagadol Dirashot like? Was it a discussion of halacha? Was it a discussion of ideas?
He was young then. He may not remember
17.
it that well.
The few ones I remember was more like Musar. A lot of Musar, a lot of not as much as halachot. Was more on Musar and more on Jewish thought, I would say, if you can categorize it that way. And I think the purpose or the reason for that, during the time I was growing up, from the late 1800s up until 1880, 1890, up until I was born and living around it, that time, I think there was a little bit of decline in Jewish observance, and people were more cosmopolitan, and it was the European Enlightenment, influence that came across the entire region, including Syria, to variable degrees. Damascus community was more affected than Aleppo community. Aleppo community was smaller, more insular, close, tight. Damascus community was a little bit larger, in a cosmopolitan place, more influenced in Damascus. And the rabbis were struck, at the time I was there, they were not struggling, but they were facing some challenges as to the real observance. They all observed kashrut in terms of meat and halav and so forth, but there were some leniency. People started losing it, and people wanted to become modern and do as your neighbor, and that was a challenge that probably began in 1910 or 1900s or maybe earlier, but definitely was through the time that I was growing up. That was a challenge.
You mean there were like people who didn't come to synagogue, or they just didn't do the customs?
Very interesting. No, even people who were not as observant, which you can say not too many, meaning the minority, who, for example, didn't care about. At some point, some people drove.
Right, or they certainly didn't check the rice like that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know, but I can tell you the people that I know of. The same person would go to shul, absolutely. Would go to shul on Pesach, and no one would make an issue out of it. There was a level of tolerance, understanding, based on the idea of, okay, we have to leave the door open, and our arms are just as open, if not more open, to anyone, to welcome back, and we will never close the door in that way. Like some European Jewish communities, they didn't want to deal with this because they were afraid more of that influence will affect more individuals in the community. So they closed it. No, in the Middle East was not like this. It was
right. Which is really a beautiful thing. There was always very accepting that it was one family, it was one community.
Correct. And a person who was not 100% observant was not, put down or embarrassed. He was okay. People knew it. Nobody talked about it. It's like it's a personal thing. And if this person comes to shul, please come to shul. Would love to have you. And there was no issue made out of it. More tolerant.
That's beautiful. And when you came to America, like, did you look back at your Pesach and like, how did you feel like once you were here and you were doing Sidarim here? Like, did it feel like, okay, now I'm free? Like, did you ever think about, like, now I'm like, first of all, did you ever think about being in Syria? Like, did you ever think about that you were oppressed? Like, did that sort of come out in your mind at the Seder? Were you thinking about that or talking about it?
Strangely enough, more than once, I remember somehow discussions between the family adults. I was a little kid. Somehow the current events at the time made it their way into the conversation of the Seder, and it was tied up in the story of Exodus. And I'll give you an example. My grandfather would say, situation was bad for whatever reason for the Jews. And my father, also my grandfather, would say the same statement, say, we are just guests. And this is not new. This is nothing new for us. Our grandfather, great-grandfather, for thousands of years, this has been happening. And this is not our country. We're here just guests. Our home is Yerushalayim, and this is not our home. And if we're going through hardship right now, the day will come that Yeshua will come. Allah befrij. In Arabic, they say Allah befrija. May God send Yeshua. And they believed in that, and they conveyed that to the younger generation, like me. I still remember those lines from my father and grandfather.
And like the secret police wasn't there when no. During Pesach. It wasn't like watching.
Practicing Judaism in terms of Jewish religion was not much of an issue for the Secret Service or the government. Right. It was tolerated as they tolerated Jews and Jewish practices, just as they tolerated Christian practices in all of their forms.
Right.
So there wasn't such an issue.
Right.
From that perspective.
But it's interesting that they would say we are guests here. I mean, were you there in 1982? Were you there during the Lebanon War?
Yes.
That must have been a very difficult time.
It was a tough time there was a lot of tension in the air. But people went around doing what they're doing without much interference. In 1973, I don't recall. I mean, it was worse. From what I was told, that the Jewish community, Jewish quarter, was kind of semi-sealed off with barricades, checkpoint.
It was like on lockdown. They locked it down.
Kind of lockdown. They allow people to move around,
Right.
but there was checkpoints. I don't know exactly. We're afraid of
Yeah.
something happening to the Jews, so protective measures were taken.
Interesting. What was your favorite part of the Seder?
The favorite part of the Seder was the Haroset.
Really?
Haroset was my favorite
Did you
part.
like eat a lot of it? Is that
Yes, we used to love it, and especially the lettuce, the romaine lettuce on top of the lettuce.
Oh, really?
Yes, that was
So
a good.
you would have like a
Yes,
sandwich
all the
or whatever.
kids
You would,
loved it.
like
Yes,
a wrap. Oh, that's interesting.
yes.
That is your favorite part. And is there anything you miss about those Sedarim?
Being together with a family, which
Yeah.
I haven't done, all of us, like my sisters and brothers and everybody, we haven't done since I left Syria.
Oh, really? Okay. No, maybe one day soon. Now that the coronavirus is over, that's something. And the Arabic, you still remember it, or you have Haggadah in Arabic? Like, do you remember all of the songs?
I don't have a Haggadah in Arabic. I've seen versions that have the Hebrew and the Arabic translation, what they sang it. But we still remember it because it was like a song. So
right. So you remember all of it.
Yes.
Do you do any of it at your Seder?
I tried, but to no avail. I failed. My kids started laughing. Like, what are you doing?
Really? Well, maybe one day.
Why
One day
they'll funny. They tell me, why are you speaking funny?
They'll learn it. I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, so you really did the Haggadah twice.
Correct. Technically speaking, yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. And everyone sat at like the women were there sitting with you, or?
Yes.
Okay. And they would sing.
Women,
and they would,
the kids, everybody, yes. The women did not have the advantage of reading. Very few people in the time I was around, in my time. Maybe previous generation they had, but in my time, no, they did not have the Hebrew capacity to read Hebrew.
So they but they would know the songs, I imagine. They would know.
Yes. They know the song. It's very familiar to them. And as I said, many of them were sung in Arabic, so they understood.
Interesting. And you said every year is a different menu. Whatever they want your family cooked, you cooked. You cooked different food every year.
Yes, it wasn't the set menu, no.
And there were no like special pastries that you made for Pesach.
Yes, they did make a special pastry similar to what they make here. The coconut. The
macaroons.
The macaroons. We made it at home, and they made also the what do you call it? Made from almonds, marzipans.
Oh, okay.
They made marzipans, and that was the
right. That was the Pesach
highlight
sweet.
The highlight of Pesach was the marzipan. Fresh almond.
And did you make your own tea? Like, how did you get tea for Pesach?
Tea, they bought the dried leaf, and
then you would make it from that.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. So, Rabbi Laniado, do you have any questions for Hazzan Benny?
Not a question. Just when you were mentioning before about the Haggadah also being recited in Arabic, just a side note, that did continue in Brooklyn also for quite some time in the Kitab system. We had a system after school Jewish education, after public school, and they were taught to memorize the Haggadah. So I had interviewed somebody whose name passed away, Ralph Harari. He knew the Hebrew, he could recite it in the proper tunes, with the Arabic in the proper tunes. And he said that he recited it for his father, and unfortunately his father realized he had no idea what he was reading. So there definitely, that's a tradition that was definitely beautiful. It was shifted away from with the start of Jewish day schools, where there was more of a shift towards understanding versus memorization, which has benefits and major detriments. I mean, we don't no longer, and Benny could for sure talk to this, we do not have the skill of recitation and reading that we used to have even in Brooklyn.
Right.
They used to be able to recite anywhere in Tehillim, Tanakh. It wasn't a question.
Ba'al peh.
Not Ba'al Peh, but to read in a book.
They're very familiar with the text.
Accuracy.
Yeah.
Very familiar with texts and, accurate reading and understanding at least the translation of the text, what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big plus at the time.
Wow. Benny, and what, so tell me in terms of what is the part of the Haggadah that you like the best?
The last one, because after the meal and the singing, of course, Hallel,
Well, you would say Shvo Chamatcha as well, I assume.
Yes.
And you would open the door to the house.
We did not open the door. I don't remember that custom. They
Okay.
did say, okay, but we did not.
And you would do that in Arabic as well.
They did it in Arabic. My uncles did it in Arabic. Yes.
Right, and then that's what I'm saying. That could get you into trouble with the wrong people listening.
Well, it wasn't like so public. We were in your home.
Right. You didn't open the door, so it's yeah.
We did not have that custom opening the door, by the way. I don't know. I heard about it here.
And not in the beginning, not in the end.
No.
And Rabbi Laniado, you don't open the door either?
So we do. The question, I don't know from my memory whether that's something that just we do in my family or that's something more broad. I have read about it as something that has been done more broad, but part of the difficulty with understanding Minhagim of the Seder is everybody is unique within their own families. There's not so much cross. But for my family, for sure, I definitely do that. I open the door. But
this is like something that comes from Aleppo. Like, in other words, it's not something you picked up in America.
I don't know.
And Benny, you were saying the last part of Hallel is your favorite part.
Yes, the Hallel and the Tefillah, Nishmat Kol Chai, and that was.
And that I assume you sing the whole thing.
Yes.
And your kids know how to sing your tunes?
I'm trying to teach them. I'm trying. Elior already way ahead, is doing well, and he's learning not only how to read, how to pray, Tefillah, as well as create the Torah. Now I'm encouraging him to read more and more. He learned the Haggadah this year now. Half of it is finished already.
Wow.
So he'll be
like
leading.
In other words, like the tune for Nishmat. I'm just curious, actually, Rabbi Laniado, do you have the same tune for Nishmat at the Seder as Benny does? Do you sing are you singing one tune that was like the tune that was sung by everybody, or is it everyone does their own thing?
No, we definitely pick a scale, and then you sing within a scale. But I also have no idea. I've never been to Benny's table. I have no idea what he's saying.
No, I think every family does it differently, but obviously they chose the happy melodies, not.
But so you're talking about a makam, like in other words, it's like one. Correct. Okay, correct. And then you sort of carry it. So you would carry that through Hallel, and then to Nishmat. Okay,
correct.
And then there are songs within that musical scale that we then have the option of choosing from, if you want to stick within that scale.
Oh, interesting.
Well, everybody does it slightly different, but in a happy makam, exactly, happy mode.
Wow. Oh, wow. Penny, it is always happy for me to be together with you. I don't know if you have anything else you want to share with us. It is an honor to have you and hear you lead the tefillah, and to have you as part of our community. And I always love listening to you. I don't know if you have any final words you want to tell everybody, or.
I just want to wish that this coronavirus is completely and utterly out of the picture.
Amen.
And I want to wish every single person on Zoom with us, or part of KJ who's not with us right now, and to the entire Jewish people, really Hag Kasher V'Sameach, and I wish everybody will have a wonderful and joyful Hag.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Rabbi Laniado. It's my honor, and I can't wait to see you in KJ. You're here for the Chag, right? You're here for Pesach.
Unfortunately, I am not going to be here.
Okay. All right. So Rabbi Laniado, you'll teach him the tunes. He'll be okay.
Okay.
We'll invite you down, Rabbi Steinmetz. You'll be a Hazzan.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Thank you, Rabbi Laniado.
Thank you.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Sameach.